Welcome everybody. Here's the process that we are going to go through for today. Since we've never done the Zoom call before, we expected to run this for about 45 minutes. We've received a number of questions from you upon registration. We have a number of topics to update everybody on. And so we're going to go through, Joan and I are going to discuss kind of the latest developments and try to answer your questions. Along the way, if you have any questions that are on the topics that we're talking about, just like we do with the forum, feel free to chat. That's probably going to be the easiest way to continue the discussion rather than trying to find you in the midst of 60, 70 people here. And what we also plan to do starting next week is have another session just like this. We may turn this into a weekly session. We may turn it into a question and answer where we actually do get the hang of the Zoom calls and we can take live questions in that format. But for today, we're going to run through. We have a lot of updates, a lot of information I'm sure you're anxious to hear about. The other thing that I'll mention is that I think some of the questions that did come in upon registration were questions that you want to hear feedback from other fellow homeowners, and here we are as a group of fellow homeowners. It's going to be obviously hard to unmute everybody and get a consensus on that. One of the best ways, I think, to get other feedback from homeowners is going to be, if you're not joined already, the Cape Cod and Islands homeowner Facebook group, or the community Facebook group that we started is a great place. It's been drawing a lot of attention, a lot of great conversations, a lot of questions about that we're going to be talking about today, but you'll get a lot of direct feedback. Some of you I recognize are participants in that group already and chatting. And so there's a lot of valuable information and feedback going around, not just from We Need a Vacation, but from fellow homeowners. So to get started, I guess I should, without further ado, I should first say, hope everybody is healthy and safe during this time. It's certainly an anxious time for everyone. You know, life seemed to have stopped for a couple months, and you know, while we want to, you know, we're not out of the woods yet, we do see some signs that, you know, all around the country there are, you know, every state is looking to cautiously reopen business, reopen the economy. And obviously we're all here today to figure out, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for Massachusetts, for the Cape Cod and Islands community, and specifically for rentals? So the biggest thing on our mind is kind of, what is the latest? What is the latest on Governor Baker's stance? And when do we expect to hear what? And that really is going to drive kind of what the summer season is going to look like. So I'm going to ask Joan to come in. Joan said hi to everybody, but Joan, hello.
Hello.
I will make a joke. If anybody here sees a bearing resemblance and thinks you might see something, you're seeing a double. Yes, Joan is my mother. Did not know that, or if you could not figure that out from our resemblance, but
I'm surprised you admitted that.
Well, when we're on the screen, face to face on the screen, or side by side, however you want to look at it, but no, we are not quarantining together, so that for better or worse. So anyways, Joan, why don't you have been well adverse and in tune with everything going on and partaking with some of these subcommittees of Governor Baker. So why don't you give an update on your involvement with these subcommittees and where things stand with Governor Baker's and his forthcoming decisions?
Sure. Just last week, a committee was formed called the Reopening Cape Cod Task Force, and by Cape Cod, they mean Cape and Islands. And this task force has about 25 members, including the state Senator Sear and the representatives from the Cape and Islands, and many of the chamber, Wendy Northcross of the Cape Cod Chamber, representatives from chambers throughout the Cape and Islands, and businesses. So many people that represent different facets of the Cape and Islands communities. So that we are on a subcommittee of that committee, and we met virtually via Zoom with Kevin Howard, who is on that committee, and last week, and expressed our thoughts, and we shared ideas. Another meeting we had, or a phone conversation, was with Brian Castle, who is the CEO of the Cape and Islands Association of Realtors. And he expressed to us that their goal is to present to the governor and the Governor's Council on Reopening Massachusetts a footprint for guidelines and expectations for reopening Cape Cod and the islands safely. And the one thing that really stood out is his underscoring the importance of a consistent message. So I'm sure many of you are hearing about rumors, and not necessarily rumors, but real thoughts from different communities on the Cape that would like to form some of their own rules, such as a 28-day minimum stay. And Ryan Castle expressly said that this is not something that we can do. It just has to be consistent. And he believes that the governor and their team will go along with that and agree that it has to be consistent. It would just be chaotic to have one town close their beaches or limit the length of stay, and then the next town over not do that. It just wouldn't work and would be very disruptive. The goal of everyone is to get the economy moving, and there are so many interests in that, restaurants and activities, and of course vacation rentals, hotels. It just, endless, but we've got to be able to salvage some of our summer and do it safely. That's our number one goal.
So with those guidelines that you've been discussing with Ryan Castle and Kevin Howard, those are trickling back to Governor Baker's reopening committee, correct?
He's going to be submitting it. He told us that he would send us the draft. We haven't received it yet. I think they're still fine-tuning it. So they were taking recommendations and thoughts from many different sectors, and he will be sending it to us, but we don't have it as of yet.
Okay. And when do you expect the guidelines to be coming out from Governor Baker's office? Is that going to be part of the 18th?
We believe that it'll be Monday, May 18th. It's unusual that, in my mind, that he would be waiting until then, but to administer the guidelines and to publicly distribute them. But that is the case, and it's a four-step process. So as you all probably know, it's not going to be reopening Massachusetts all at once. I think the businesses that have the highest contact will, of course, open later. Probably restaurants and, perhaps things like hair salons and all the essential to some of us.
A question related to kind of just insight into what those guidelines are going to be. I know it's all proposal and we haven't seen the draft, but wasn't there discussion about the limited stay? Any sort of input on the stay limits?
Ryan Castle was going to submit I believe, at least that's what he said last Friday, a limit of 7-day minimum stay. Now, I don't know if that would apply to the shoulder season, which, as you all know, many people rent their home for less than 7 nights in the spring and fall. It may be something that would be imposed just for the spring and the summer. And I think a lot depends on how the state reacts, how the virus, whether it it comes back, or what the pace of it is, and whether it can be contained.
Right. I would expect that if they set an initial limitation on the length of stay, if they put out a 7-day minimum, I would wager they don't take into seasons into consideration. It'll probably, it's 7 day is going to be there for as a minimum. If that's what they come out with initially, it's to minimize the volume, the turnovers, and the number of people coming.
Mm-hmm.
So off season may, while we say the off season may be hit by that, at the same time, the off season is also growing because the schools are closed, and May and June may actually, or the end of May, June may increase.
Right.
So I think the other piece of feedback that we gave on that was whether, even if a 7-day limitation came into place, what would happen to existing bookings that are under that? Would they be grandfathered in? And so that was the question that we had asked.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and we don't know that.
Right. So, and I don't know, seeing a couple questions here. These are good questions. People asking about the rules on whether they apply to hotels, and hotels and motels. Don't know. I mean, we don't know the specifics of.
I don't know, but I suspect that hotels and motels would not be under a 7-night minimum stay order. It doesn't seem to make sense. And I know, with the lodging tax, they like to put us together as one group when the lodging tax came into play. But I think for this, they would probably treat them differently.
Okay. Well, I think beyond this point, getting further into the discussion, I mean, it's speculation. Right? We are going to be getting more details about what's forthcoming. We can't answer definitively until we get these guidelines. So guidelines coming out Monday, and it's the very reason why we said we want to hold this meeting again after these guidelines come out, so we can fully review these guidelines in detail and take a look and have a follow-up to answer questions on those guidelines. I'm sure everyone's going to be itching to read those guidelines on Monday, if that indeed is when they come out, and try to analyze it. What does it all mean? So we're going to try to get that information out as soon as possible. And hopefully answer all these other questions, things about existing reservations. Again, we just don't know about the existing reservations. We have to wait to get these guidelines on Monday. But bottom line, kind of just what people are looking for is kind of the hope that, is there going to be a summer at all? Like, if you were to, Joan, what's your prediction on, the bottom line? Will there be some sense of rentals being opened up at this point?
Well, I think definitely, I guess I shouldn't say definitely, but I would say yes. The summer will open up. There will be a summer. It will not look like the normal one. There probably will be fewer people. However, when the ban is lifted, we suspect that there will be a great deal of pent-up demand for summer rentals. I mean, when you think about the number of families that have been cooped up in their homes for weeks on end, they're trying to homeschool their kids, along with their teachers, of course, and they're going stir crazy. I've talked to a number of vacationers who say, we definitely plan to come. We really need a vacation. And I think that we've already seen an uptick in the number of inquiries just in the last couple of weeks. So I do think, and I think too, that it may open up June. We may see more inquiries for June because because kids are home from school, they can learn anywhere. Plus, a lot of camps are probably canceled, and so the families have many weeks that are open to them, and they probably want to get away. And 96% of the vacationers who come to the Cape and Islands in the summer through our site anyway, come from within a day's drive of, or even a couple of hours of the Cape. So it'll be an attractive destination, we feel.
Right. And I think that's probably, again, what we can expect with these guidelines that are coming out, is that they don't want to open the floodgates and just let, say, the Cape is open and rentals are open, hotels are open, and all of a sudden people that have this pent up demand are flooding to the Cape. So we have to realize that the guidelines are going to come out, just as Governor Baker has already talked about the 4 phases. We would expect that there be some sort of phasing in approach. Will rentals be allowed on day 1 or phase 1, or is it going to be phase 2? And we will have to see what happens. What we've been doing, just in discussing with our vacationers and discussing within our teams about how are we going to treat, talking with our vacationers and helping to find your homes, we realize that we have to do so in a responsible way. That everybody, a lot of people have this pent up demand to get away, get to the beaches, but it's got to be done in a safe way. It's got to be done responsibly, and that's something that we're going to be promoting to our vacationer audience as well. Setting the appropriate expectations that yes, if rentals are open, yes, it's open, but there are going to be these limitations. Again, we can't expand on that yet in terms of exactly what the limitations may be, say at the beaches, but it's definitely something that we want to be able to, we'll become well versed at and communicate to vacationers. Many of the homeowners, many of you have already said that you have a lot of vacationers that are taking a wait and see approach. They haven't canceled, and they're holding on to their vacations to see what happens. And that it's very true that people are waiting, they're longing for this vacation. In terms of Joan, you mentioned kind of the increase already. The feedback that, that I've been looking at the numbers and watching this kind of really, it's almost like the turn of the weather in May. This past 10, 11 days, we've already seen an increase in inquiries, 15 to 20% increase in May already and this is over last year. I saw a 17% increase in the number of vacationers that are on the site during the month of May. So I think my take on that is that there's been this pent up demand, or a stoppage, if you will, from March and April, where folks just stopped life for a little while, and now they're getting back into whether they have time to focus on what am I going to do this summer. I want to be able to get away, and Joan, as you mentioned, somewhere drivable. It's definitely, I put that out there just to add some level of positive view on what we're coming to see. If people are starting to increase the number of inquiries now, and this is with a booking ban that's currently in place, what's going to happen if and when rentals are permitted? I think, again, you'll see the pent-up demand will come forward, and there's going to be a lot of interest in the vacation, in your rentals.
And Jim,
yeah.
Didn't we see a dramatic increase in the inquiries for longer term bookings? I think at one point you said there was something like 128% increase in inquiries for the longer term. And
right.
And some of that to me is, we've got the time. We can work from anywhere as long as we have internet. Our kids can learn from anywhere. Let's get out of this place and go someplace different. And what better, setting than by the ocean or.
Right. Well, that's the only thing that's allowed as of today. The only rentals allowed are 31 plus days, 32 plus days. 32 plus days
is considered longer term. It's not considered short term, so it is not banned. Plus, the added bonus is there's no tax for any rental tenancy that's 32 right. days or more.
Right. I've been watching the search data on terms such as long-term Cape Cod rentals, monthly rentals, and that has seen a 400% increase over the same time period in, say, January. So kind of the interest level of long-term rentals is there. A lot of people are looking for long-term rentals. It's not, I understand, desirable for every homeowner, but some have said, yeah, I don't want to deal with the weekly turnovers. If I can get a monthly a guest for the summer or for a single month, July and August, that's really going to simplify things. We'll get into our cleaning topic in a minute, but it would simplify our cleanings and turnovers if you had a monthly tenant. So there is interest out there for that. I think with that, I think we should jump over to that most common question that was being asked upon registration here was, what's going to happen to the rentals, the recommendations on turnovers? Is there going to be a buffer required? In the news has been a lot of talk about a 24-hour buffer. So Joan, what's your take on, what is the requirements here and what do you expect to see?
Again, in talking to Ryan Castle, Board of Association of Realtors, he indicated that no, there would be no mandated buffer. Now, that being said, if in the ideal world, it would be great if we could all have at least 24 hours between the departure of our last tenant and the arrival of our next tenant. If people have open weeks or months and they can do that, that might not be a bad idea. Or to promote a 6-night rental, even if they mandate a 7-night minimum, I don't think they would care if someone stayed for 6 nights. Your lease was for 7 nights just to abide by the ruling, and you would of course ask for less money than if they were staying for 7 nights. But that's not what most people can do, because many of you already have bookings, and you have back-to-back bookings, people leaving on Saturday morning and new guests coming in on Saturday afternoon or Sunday or whatever your turnover day is, predominantly Saturdays. What you might do is, for those vacationers who are really squeamish about this, you could offer them 6 nights, or you could perhaps, again, if you have openings, you could try to promote an 8 or a 9-day stay and then stagger. That's if you could, accommodate the cleaning. Stagger the rentals. You probably would have some days that had, there was no one there, but it's an unusual summer with the cleaning protocol that we're going to have to put in place. So whatever people can do to be flexible. The other thing that you might do if you are committed to the Saturday to Saturday turnover is to ask your incoming tenants to come a little later. Instead of 3 o'clock, maybe make it 5 o'clock or even 6 o'clock. They might not like it, but you would have to explain to them that it's in their best interest and you're concerned about their health and safety. So I know that some cleaning companies are even saying that they won't even send the cleaners into a house until hours after the departure of the guests. That could make things a little more difficult too.
I think we've been talking about this for a while, and I think, as you mentioned, some vacationers may not like it, and I don't own a rental, but I sit on the vacation renter side of things, and I rent a home in Wellfleet each summer. So, from my perspective, as you say, vacationers aren't going to be happy if you change those terms on them. My perspective is tough. Like, do what's in the best interest of safety here. This is unprecedented time where this is an unusual summer. Do what's right and do what makes it's safe for everybody. Do what you can to work under, your cleaners may have guidelines that they need to follow. So I think vacationers will understand and what, if I'm able to take a vacation this summer, if I lose a few hours because I have to check in late, so be it. Like if that's what it takes to get me to the Cape and to enjoy a stay, that's what it's going to be. So I think, work within the guidelines and ensure that you're doing things that are kind of, following the guidelines and best practices there.
Yeah, the other thing, Jim, is that we homeowners have to emphasize to our guests that the checkout time and check-in time has to be abided by. Every summer, we have one family, been coming for over 20 years, and they always come early, and they just say to our cleaners, it's okay, we'll make do. We're just going to make a mess when we get in here. That's okay, you can leave. And we just won't allow that this summer. People have to respect the time and the fact that there is a finite number of hours for the cleaning crew, and it's not always easy to have the cleaning crew come at a consistent time either. They usually have a number of homes that they have to do, and if they're delayed on, for instance, the first 1 or 2 homes, and it's going to take longer this summer for them to do the cleaning and disinfecting, that pushes them back to the point where they're stretched for the whole day.
So communications it feels like communications with your guests, your guests that have already been booked and they already have their bookings in place. Any changes to your process, your check, especially repeat renters, they're used to, like you said, they're used to coming and saying, oh, don't worry about it. It seems to me that communication with your guests is going to be critical here, and to ensure that you're communicating with them to give them updates on where things stand, any changes to your rules or your guidelines, and making sure that it fits. They don't want to be surprised on the day before their arrival that check-in is now at 6 p.m. instead of 3 p.m.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are your recommendations on?
Yeah, vacationers are naturally anxious about this too. While they want a vacation, they want it to be safe, and and they have qualms about this, and the fact that they will be going into a home perhaps for the first time, and they want to be secure in the knowledge that it's going to be safe for them. So, reaching out to them even now, just to reassure them is a good idea, and to explain what you're going to be doing in terms of cleaning protocol, that you've been in touch with your cleaning crew, that these are the extra measures that will be taken, and that we will be leaving sufficient cleaning materials for you at the house for you to use while you're there. All of that is really important in the communication with guests, to make them feel like, I'm really looking forward to my vacation, and I can be rest assured that that our family will be safe.
Right. Well, we're in a new area here. Clearly, I mean, more cleaning needs to be done this year than ever. Cleaning is always a hot topic every year, and this year, obviously, it's exponentially more important. So, as you mentioned, homeowners explaining to their guests what they're going to do. I think, how can we provide? What are we going to do? What's We Need a Vacation going to do to provide some guidance here? I think there are checklists that are out there, or there will be forthcoming.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of information have we run across, or can we provide? You might have to wait till the 18th, but.
Right. Well, many of you have probably already read our pretty comprehensive blog post on cleaning, and we are updating that all the time. Today we added a clause to that we have added to our sample lease about indemnifying the homeowner. Now that's another topic altogether, but I just thought I'd mention it. We are updating that blog post, and we have a lot of references on there, including CDC guidelines, and Ryan Castle again mentioned that they will be coming up with in coordination with the Massachusetts Board of Public Health, a list of guidelines, and even to the extent I believe that it will be something that might be posted in every rental home, so that the vacationer, the guests coming in, will see what has been done, and the cleaning crew will know, the protocol as well. And so a checklist that they perhaps might even,
Sure.
the cleaning crew might even have to, sign off on each week.
So, and I think Beta and I were talking last week or the week before. I think we may add kind of a template to our inventory on the website to help homeowners with communication of this. What would be a sample communication email that you might send to your guests to convey what it is that you're doing to, what are you doing to ensure the cleanliness of your home? Not necessarily ensure, you're not. What's the wording, Joan, that you were saying about what you don't, in terms of disinfectant versus?
Yeah, there's cleaning first. That obviously has to be done first. And then there's sanitizing, which is always done. But that doesn't get rid of as many germs and doesn't address the virus as much as disinfecting. So that's the third and very important step that needs to be emphasized, and what house cleaners are essentially going to have to do. And some cleaning crews will, obviously it will take longer. They might be adding staff to come into the home, but and they may charge more as a result of this. It's not easy because they've got to go over every high touch surface in the house, including things like remotes for the TV and all the different handles and doorknobs, and just, imagine what is touched. So it's not an easy process, and it's not foolproof. So, you just have to do, as the best job that you can, and make sure that you're either you or your cleaning crew, do a very thorough job. And
it's important to convey that you are looking out for your guests, that you are taking extra measures, that you're building the trust before they even step foot into your home. They have the trust, they've received communication from you that you are taking these extra measures to ensure their safety. You want the vacationers to know that you are taking those extra steps in this unprecedented year, and just feel safe walking into that home. That being said, you have to also imagine that vacationers share some of this responsibility. You can't walk. A vacation rental is not your home, and so if you're, as a vacationer, they walk into some other place, just as if they walk into a public building now, they are going to share some of this responsibility and want to. I imagine many vacationers are going to step foot and do some of their own cleaning anyways. It's kind of become the norm that you walk in from outside and you wash your hands. So vacationers are going to be doing that. I think, what else can we as homeowners do to provide at our rentals for our guests? What supplies should you bring to help your guests? What supplies should you bring? Should you bring it or provide for your guests, and what do you expect the vacationers to bring themselves?
I wouldn't expect the vacationers to bring any cleaning supplies, and most homeowners provide all of that anyway. But I think it's even more important. I mean, every summer, I see the guest reviews, of course, and some of them will talk about how there was nothing there. There weren't even any cleaning supplies. That can't be. That you've got to leave these items for them to use. Not that they should feel like they have to clean the house, but it's a new normal, at least for now, that these items should be there for them. Even things like gloves, and certainly paper towels, and it's an added expense for homeowners, but I think it's a necessary one.
Can you expect to increase your rates then, or add a cleaning fee? What would you recommend for new bookings?
Well, if you existing bookings, you of course have to abide by what you charged if you do charge an extra cleaning fee. If you're charged more by your cleaning company for the additional cleaning, then it's fair to pass it on to the vacationer when you sign the lease. I think that they would understand that. That's going to take an additional steps and additional time and resources to get the house up to the standard that is going to be required now. The other issue that we haven't touched on is linens, and that's a whole other category, that topic that is just fraught with concerns. And some homeowners who normally provide linens and towels are now asking their guests to bring them, or they are getting them supplied from a linen service, and either and providing the guest with the name of a linen service so they can contact them. But doing the extra cleaning and also providing linens, and do you launder the blankets in between and the spreads? And some homeowners are taking away all of the fluff. They're taking away the decorative pillows and the pillow shams on, sometimes the things that really make a house look charming, but for this summer, some of them are removing those items just, to make it a little more hotel-like, and eliminate the worry with those items. Although viruses don't tend to stick to soft items as easily as to hard surfaces. So, but we keep learning more and more about that. We don't have all the answers.
So, would you, questions coming in related to this is just, you have a washer dryer at your home, you're typically, you just simply wash the sheets and put them back on. Is that sufficient?
It is, if are you talking about if the homeowner does it or the cleaning crew?
Right.
It just has to be done at a very high temperature. And it's probably fine, but normally people don't wash blankets and bedspreads and comforters and all that. So, you can't remove those items and not furnish them. So, you just have to do the best you can. I'm thinking of getting a second, spread and blanket for every bed in our house, and then have my linen person change them in between. But that's,
right.
And expensive and difficult.
Right. And maybe we don't have all the answers to this, but again, a couple of questions coming in here about just decorative pillows on the beds, on the couches. What are those? Those aren't standard that in years past we've ever thought about. We usually think about aligning, making your room look nice, not
right.
Has this been sanitized? So, what's the expectation there on beyond, a step beyond just your sheets and pillows?
Yeah. Well, I think the bottom line is, if you can declutter your house so that it's more easily cleanable, that's step one. And if there are some of these items, smaller items that are expendable, pillow, decorative pillows and such, it's not necessary that you have them in the house. So if you want to remove them,
I know it's tough, and I know it's tough. I see the comments here, this just the fact that we're in this state that we're, it's stressful to think about. And that, Joan, as you mentioned, you do all these things for your rental to make sure it looks nice and it's well represented on your listing and when they walk into the home, and yet now we're saying take it all away. It's a tough thing to hear, but again, in the eyes of doing things that are both easiest, safest, and to me, it makes sense for this year to try to simplify things.
Yeah.
Make
It's
things
all,
easier for
it's in
you
the
and for the,
yeah, it's in the perception too. I doubt that somebody's going to get the virus from a, a pillow sham or something, but
right.
I think if we can remove a lot of those items just for this summer, your house will still look nice. It might look a little more like a hotel and a little less charming, but I think vacationers will sacrifice charm for, their peace of mind.
Right. And always remember that, again, we're touting the fact that Cape Cod and the islands especially is a drivable destination, meaning people can pack up their car if they need to pack up a little bit more, if they need to pack up a few extra things. If they don't normally take sheets, now they can. If they want to bring pillows, they can, and I fully expect a lot of people will take advantage of that. This, being able to just pack up the car and bring the necessities, they'll be bringing,
Yeah, I think in terms of, I see somebody commenting, what about pillows? Well, you need to provide a pillow for every bed. Maybe, you change the liner along with the pillowcase every week. Or if you get some squeamish vacationer, a guest, and again, this is where communication ahead of time comes in. You can, if they question you about that, then they're obviously nervous. You can say, well, bring your own pillows if you'd like, and we'll just, we'll put the others in the closet. But it could be a case-by-case basis. There will be other people who might not even be thinking along those lines. So if you communicate with each tenant, and I'm just going to put in my booking management, a little plug for our booking management, notes about each of our guests to indicate, what their concerns are and what I might need to do each week to accommodate them.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, I think simplifying things will make lives easier for all parties involved, homeowners, tenant, guests, and the cleaners this year.
Mm-hmm.
I just think you have to. There's too many things. It can't be perfect. There's too many things to cover to expect perfection here. And I think looking at feedback, you're looking at inquiries that are coming in, and homeowners, you can think about what feedback you have received. A lot of people probably haven't heard from their vacationers. As I think right now, homeowners are mostly concerned about the cleaning. Vacationers they have the one benefit of a vacation rental is the fact that you can control your environment, and different than the hotel where as you go to a hotel, you're going into a common space where you're going to the front desk, you're going to the elevator, you're going, common hallways, common areas. That's a lot different than I'm renting a home. I'm building a relationship with the homeowner to connect and understand, here are the protocols. But once I get into that home, it's my space for the week, and I can control what's there. I can control what comes in and what goes out. So, and I think there's some benefit here for the vacation rental industry, and especially the book direct industry, to be able to feel comfortable that you're moving into and being able to take a vacation in a home and control what you're bringing in. And control what the cleaning protocols are that you're going to be following. What we have heard, what we've seen from inquiries, is not necessarily questions about, I'm looking to book your home, what's your cleaning process? It's, what's your cancellation policy? Mm-hmm. So just kind of the sake of time, last topic is just the common question that we've had is just, what sort of cancellation policies would you recommend now, Joan?
Yeah, well, for already booked guests, and especially those who booked long before COVID-19 was even a concept or, an issue, some of them had to cancel or have to cancel even now because of any number of factors. They lost their job, or they were furloughed and they're getting their job back, but their employer tells them they need to they can't take a vacation this summer, or they have somebody elderly in their family who can't come, and they've canceled their little mini reunion, that kind of thing. And in those cases, the majority of homeowners are being very understanding and refunding them in full, despite what their cancellation policy might say in the lease. For others who are canceling a booking that they, when they booked during the crisis so that they knew what the situation was, some homeowners are standing by their traditional cancellation policy, which is if I can re-rent it, rebook it, I will refund all of your money. Some are offering maybe 50% a refund right now, and then the remaining when they've rebooked the home. So there's no one answer to that question, and we're just really recommending that you be compassionate and understanding. I heard from one renter who was a little disgruntled because she said, I have to cancel, and they weren't, the homeowner wasn't at all sympathetic to me. And then I heard the opposite from a homeowner who said they canceled, someone canceled, and they weren't at all sympathetic of my situation because I had to give up this money. So I think, both sides, there has to be understanding and compassion. This is like no other issue that we have ever had before, obviously. So.
Okay, I'm looking to see if there's other chats here, other questions. There's certainly a lot to cover, and I'm sorry we're not going to be able to get to everything on this list. In terms of, there are a couple questions just to answer. The waiver, indemnify, you said you had updated the lease for, and if anybody, I think just to summarize, if you need like an updated sample lease, we can provide that. We will, in addition to any other of these notes. I think there's I see a lot that we're not going to be able to cover here in the chat. A lot of great questions and conversations that people are having as it goes through. So we can take this information, dissect it, and certainly summarize and send out the full video recap and some chat at the chat, answer some of these additional chat questions that are in here. Yes, and what's our plan for next week? So I do expect that we're going to be sitting at our desks waiting for Baker to give his announcement. We do expect it maybe noontime is when he gives it on the 18th. And then I think the same time, give us a day to review this, give it a day for you guys to review. So I think we'll set a similar time next Wednesday. We'll confirm exactly if that works, but Joan and I have already talked about doing one next Wednesday to talk about kind of what the guidelines are and what it means and answer any additional questions.
So 2
yes.
o'clock. 2 o'clock.
Well, we'll confirm. I think this is what we're going to do is we're going to set up that web page again. Everybody that is on this call and signed up for today's call, you don't need to register again. We'll send you an email and you can join if you can, but you're automatically registered. And we'll send out that information. Again, I think, I think just for sake of time, we're going to wrap it up today. And thank everybody for joining in. Hopefully we get some good information on Monday, and we'll do another round and address your questions and give you some guidance moving forward. Joan, anything else?
Well, just to thank you for joining us. It's beginning to sound a little trite, but we're all in this together, and we really would like to help you through it, and we're depending on you to give us your feedback too, and we'll do it.